Thank you, Lorraine. Good afternoon. A little bit quiet, I was told. So, selamat petang. 大家下午好. Wow. So, I was told, after lunch, very tough. But I was telling the panelists, maybe after the tea break, some of you just came in, I even have a tougher job, right? So, nonetheless, we will try our best to give you the good insight about data. You want to know about data, you want to know about insight? Both. Okay. Let me just start the ball rolling a little bit, right? First disclaimer, I'm not a specialist for this panel, but I'm a good talker and moderator. You get it? Okay, that's the first disclaimer. Second disclaimer I want to take on the thing is that we have an expert collection, four of them here, right? Combination of them from industry that can help you to analyze data, that can help you to do revenue maximization using the data, they can help you to do a sales lead generation of data, they can help you analyze data, can help you advertising using the data. And we also have someone in the industry that very hard to describe the company capability, but practically from AI to big data to anything that the company can do for you. So that is the collections of the panelists we have. A round of applause for all the panelists who make it here today. All right? So without further ado, I want to kick off by saying that why data is important. As many of you know that the country, the world is moving towards something called a fourth industrial revolution. The first revolution happened sometime in 1784. There was steam engine was born, right? There's a lot of things was transforming the economy. The first economy transformation. The second one, that's where electricity. That was in the early 19th, late 80s, early 90s. That's where people can work longer hours because of electricity. You can work longer hours, production improve, and so on. The third revolution happened in the 1969. Some of us in this room, luckily I was not born yet, right? 1965. But some of us in this room, luckily also born during that time. I'm not trying to tell my age. 1969, right? From there until then, many of us are going through the era. So that was the computers, from the mainframes to minis to computers to the internet era. The next era we are entering is something called a cyber-physical era. Data is the new oil. That's why you have a lot of companies out there trying to get data, trying to use data for one single purpose. They're trying to use that to drive the future of the revenue. So this is why important that I think this is important in this session, and that's why it's going to be bigger, better, and louder. Without further ado, let me just kick off the session by asking our first panelist, Stephanie, you have the honor to probably take the first question. So the role is going to be simple in this session. You know we have a Slido. Please feel free to use a Slido out there. We will be holding about 10 to 15 minutes of time trying to use for answering the question on Slido at the end of the first round. So feel free to engage. I will also be asking questions live to the live audience here. I think the best to keep this half an hour pumped up is that we get energized. Are we okay, guys? Good. Right. Stephanie, right. Thank you for being here today, this afternoon, right?
Thank you for having me.
Right. So I think the first question will probably going around. I want to share, insight about data. How long have you been actually in this business?
Which business? Well, in ADA,
yeah.
I'm still quite new, only 4.5 months.
Born in 88?
Sorry?
Oh.
Okay, I've been in ADA for about 4.5 months. If
Been
you're
in
talking
ADA
about
for 4 months.
marketing, I've been
Yeah,
in marketing for more than a decade.
More than a decade, right? So how long have you actually been using data in your field work?
Well, I actually started out as an engineer a long time ago, so I've been using data in some way or another for a long time.
Good. Right. To set the stage right? I mean, can you share us one of the success story of data-driven marketing campaign in
Sure.
your view?
Yeah.
With the audience here.
Sure. So I'm with ADA. We are Axiata Group's, one of Axiata Group's digital businesses. And we started out as a digital advertising agency, so working with brands to help them achieve their business outcomes. But because we've invested so much into the data that we own, and we've got a big data science and engineering team, about 75 of them, we now are much more than just an agency. We actually work with different brands to help them figure out, how do they get to grow profitability and all that. So one of the clients that we worked with is very unusual. Have any of you heard of Udo? Yes. Oh, fantastic. So Udo are Malaysia's first and only fully digital telco, right? And if you know the telcos, if all of you have a telco provider, when you walk into their store, there's always a queue, right? You have to get a line. So the physical branch is really critical for any telco. Malaysians love to be able to go somewhere, ask a question, know that they have someone to go to. But Udo is fully digital. So how do they get people to subscribe and sign up to them? So they came to us to help them, really activate new customers. And obviously, the first thing that most people would do is say, all right, we'll go for millennials, right? And we'll go for tech-savvy millennials because they're the most likely audience. But if you spend your advertising dollars on all tech-savvy millennials, that's very broad. You might not be optimizing your spend. So we worked with them to really craft 5 different specific personas that we thought would fit with the Udo offering. And I'll pick one. So one of them was gamers, right? And how many of you are gamers here in the audience? Did you know that 64% of Malaysians...
You need to clarify what kind of gamers can be very social or very active, right? Because they were just being briefed in the e-sport concept, is what I was told, right?
So 64% of Malaysians are gamers in some form of it or another, whether it's professional esports or casual gamers, And what happens when you're a gamer? You're spending hours playing your games, and the worst thing that can happen is if you run out of data at that time. And Udo had a 20 gig data offering promotion. And so we were able to, because we have a lot of consumer profiles in Malaysia, we were able to help them really reach out to these gamers with a very targeted messaging. And we know when these gamers are active. Usually they might be playing late at night, so we were able to serve up the ad to them at the time that they need the data the most. And so as a result of this, we ran the campaign for a couple of weeks, and they saw 112% growth in their customer acquisition.
Thank you. So we hear gamers for us. Afternoon, just now we heard about e-sport, now we talk about gaming using for data. So it seems that gaming industry is the right industry to be in. How many of you here are doing something with gaming in this room here? Selling to gaming industries? Yes, no? Or are we encouraging our son or daughters to start playing games? Yeah. Since today it's already 64%, right? Yeah. New data, good. So next I'm going to move on to JiongHan, right? Thank you coming all the way from Singapore, right? And he is the only non-Malaysian in the room, whereby we are good neighbors, huh?
Yeah.
Chicken rice are born in both countries, by the way. Right. So there was a joke that which country have the best chicken rice? I said both countries have the best chicken rice because I tried both, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. Anyway, the next question I'll ask you is that in your field, I understand you focus a lot on sales and development, helping the client, right? What are the key challenges when adopting data-driven marketing in your field?
Right. So I serve the SMEs as well as some customers from the enterprise level, but it seems there's always the same case, the gatekeepers. My role, okay, so what I do is basically I make more sales conversation between customers to the sales agent, voice conversation. To adopt this kind of solution for the SMEs in this part of the world is very difficult. Our bosses are always the key decision makers. My customers who are in the US, in Europe, the decision makers are just very junior marketing executive and to make the decision to just purchase and implement. So unfortunately, the answer to your question is key decision makers. Yeah.
So since you mentioned about your customer are in US, Europe.
Yeah.
Okay. When you know that when we deal with people in the traditional way, one-on-one, the language barrier, the cultures, all this come into place. When you're using data to do marketing on the virtual world, is there anything
that's different in this market
with regards to culture, language that you need to consider in your field?
Yes. So culturally, the North American market they have a propensity to actually talk to people. Europe, they self-serve. India, it's always email. Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Thailand use line. Sorry?
Want to be served.
what to be served.
Southeast Asian want to be served, right?
Yeah, Southeast Asia want to be served, and purchasing power is not there, so it's very hard to sell in this region. Yeah, and they are still the key decision makers in certain industry, travel, which is a lot in this area. The average key decision makers, their age is 51. It's really hard for us to penetrate this type of customer base. So culturally, I don't know how many of companies here are selling globally or locally. You really need to position yourself, find out which industry or who are the pool of decision makers you want to go to.
So understand in the room you're sharing with me that most of your client base are big ticket item.
Yes.
Is there any particular industry that you would like to highlight that is more relevant in your field of using data to do sales enablement job?
Right. So my target audience are basically those that sells very expensive and complex product. Therefore, they will require hand-holding by your sales team to make a call, to follow up with them, and close this deal. My competitors that my users would compare me to are actually chatbot and live chat. Those are great for low-ticket items, self-serve, e-commerce. Right. So the data that you can capture with chatbot is their intent. They could have some questions answered so that you can give this context to your sales agent if needed to support that closure of the sales. Unfortunately, chatbot fails about 70% of the time, so they'll be frustrated. If it depends on but you must always prepare the contingency plan, whether it's going to be a live chat or a real person that closed that sales.
Right. Thanks. Do you think people like to talk to chatbot? Do they know they're talking to chatbot?
I am actually considered still a millennial. I'm supposed to be the age group that should use the chatbot, but I hated it, unfortunately. So unfortunately, right now in the digital marketing world, they use chatbot more as an interactive qualifier. Right? A lot of people don't like it, even myself. Live chat is still okay, because you actually get to speak to someone who can make some changes. Live chat, chatbot, you can't. So it depends on what industry and what customers you serve.
Thank you. I'm going to keep Kim for a while. I'm going to pass on to our new yes for this round. It's good, right? Because the difficult question will come to you next. Right. Christopher, right? So I understand your company is pretty complex, right? Insider. You heard about Insider?
A little bit.
Right. Insider, right? Supposed to be anything that you know because you're insider.
Yeah.
Right. So
good way to describe it.
You do pretty much everything in your company from big data, AI, and so on, right?
Yeah.
This question is pretty simple, actually, right? Because you know so much data, yeah. Can you share one key takeaway of what is the action? Sorry, can you share one of the new trend and technologies with regards to your field, other than AI, other than big data, which everybody already know, that is happening in the data-driven field, that will make sense and immediately for the audience here to go back and work on?
I thought we were saving the tough question for this guy.
This is not a tough question.
No, it's a very good question. So yeah, I mean, what new technologies or what new trends are out there for people that isn't AI, which is a new trending technology, and it's not big data, which is also a new trending technology. From our perspective, I would say new technology that's really pushing the boundaries is, I wouldn't really describe it as a technology, actually. I think it's more of a strategy. I want to go maybe down the strategy route, because technology is technology. Things happen all the time. You have things with AR, VR now coming in, and I'd say that's a little bit relevant as well in terms of new technology trends, where I think there's a company in Japan who essentially is able to get an exact model of you as a person and then create a t-shirt that fits perfectly. But I think generally from a strategy management, I think it's the approach of having like a unified experience across different channels. I would say very much like people, specifically in Malaysia actually, now it's starting to grow where businesses are wanting to actually create a unified experience, be it on your website, be it on the ads that you see, be it on your mobile app. And I think the real kind of trend and what we're seeing lately is that everybody wants to unify this experience so that I'm not you know, I'm on a mobile app. How can I know that this person is now on my website, and how can I personalize this guy's experience according to what my behavior is on the app? You know, connecting these two dots is very difficult. I think we'll get into challenges later, but essentially the trend is unification, and unifying everything into a single place is where a lot of our partners are heading towards, and that's how we help them grow as well.
Yeah. So speaking on that, Christopher, how many of you actually been to Sunway Pyramid Mall? Many of you, right? How many of you actually have received a personalization app pushed to your mobile? Not many, right? By the way, it's happening already, right? I think they launched a few months back, I was told. So this is a classic example of personalization and pushing to location base. Yeah. So if you are a user and if your behavior has been rate and your past shopping behaviors, because you're redeem point using your apps, right? Like one U card is traditional, you're just redeem point and there's no data collected. But actually they have all the data. But if they use that data, they know you're back here again, they will push the promotion of the shop to you, make known. This is a classic example of using data to do marketing in the location base. So this is a new age, a new possibility that is possible. It's already happening here. Yeah, Kim Peng, interesting, right? We have 14 more minutes before I go into that. I think one of the questions really want to ask, like, Kim Peng, this is not the first time we are on stage together, so I won't be so nice to him today, right? So he was also volunteered to say that he will take the toughest question, right? So Kim Peng, I understand that you manage a lot of big companies in Malaysia. You analyze the data. Don't mention him. Out of the company name or industry that you were working with, okay, in your past experience, which one you think that's supposed to work very well based on the execution plan with all the analytics, but it did not go as planned, and why, and what are the key learnings when we need to watch out for as marketer out there when we implement digital marketing?
So thank you for that question.
Sounds like a loaded question, right?
So I'll take the neutral approach. Okay. So basically, I think whenever someone tries to run a campaign, they usually mean well. Obviously, they want it to be cheaper, better, and faster. I think this is standard. Okay. But basically, in order to improve, we need to have the discipline to establish something called a baseline. Meaning that if this was my past results in the last 12 to 18 months, Option A generated this kind of uplift. Option B generated this kind of uplift. Option C generated this kind of uplift. Okay? So rather than saying things like, I think option B is the best, we would rather that the data tell you the right narrative or the best step forward, because you now have the ability to compare. Okay, and this is actually a never-ending process. Maybe I'll just share some examples, because I think, except for our bro here, I think most of us are Malaysians. Okay, so and as I thought he said you were born somewhere near here. Okay.
Malaysian enough. Yeah.
Fair enough. Just kidding. So anyway, what happens here is this. Because we are all citizens, we expect services to be delivered to us by our government, of course, right? So let's just choose a very simple topic, education. So for the longest time, in fact, for the last 200 years, modern governments have always delivered service based on one premise. Number one, you must be aware that you are eligible for the benefit. Number two, you must take the time to apply for the benefit. And number three, hopefully someone sees your application. Okay, these three things, right, have nothing to do with the dispensation of the service one. But because this is a bottleneck, it creates a huge cascading set of problems for all of us. So basically now, for example, when we use data, we are working with the government. We are pulling out the scores for every student from the Ministry of Education. Then what we do is, based on their performance, we are now trying to match them to all the universities that they're eligible to join. Okay? But not only that, the biggest problem that we all face sometimes, once we've already decided on a university, is how am I going to pay for it? Okay? So the next thing that we will do is, we will match supply with demand. We will identify all the scholarships that you're eligible to consider, and if that fails, we will pair you with people who are willing to offer financial assistance. So this initiative fundamentally focuses on what we call processes. And at the end of the day, there are always data points that cause a lot of friction because it's a very, very manual kind of process. And in my opinion, when we talk about marketing, right, regardless of what you're trying to sell, there are always nuggets of information that would have been useful for you to plan how to do it more effectively. So if we always focus on solving problems that we all can relate to, whether we use terms such as big data, machine learning, or artificial intelligence, it all just sounds as though it's the logical thing for us to consider. This, I think, should be the basic premise for any initiative that you are planning to consider in any of your businesses. Yeah. So if you ask me what's the takeaway, I would focus on the fact that we are here not to sell. We are here actually not even to market. We are here to fulfill the aspirations of the people that we're trying to assist. The sales, right, is just part of the outcome. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep, thank you very much. So can I also assume that in the future, if this will work, that a lot of Malaysians, the rightful one, will get their placement in the university without mistakes, which is the issue today, right? Yeah. Anyway, thanks. Okay, we have 3 questions from Slido. Before I open to someone from Slido, is there any, or we have 9 minutes left here, any audience here would like to ask any questions today? We have mics around? Or it's only through Slido? Okay. I was told that, okay, the first question is that how does a startup that's not on cloud or own a centralized data bank utilize the big data concept for marketing? Anyone? Stephanie, you want to take?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges with data-driven marketing is, especially if you're just starting out or you're an SME or an entrepreneur, we hope and we believe that data and the right technology or tools will solve everything, right? So if you've got the data, if you've got the right tools, that's going to solve your problem. But data on its own is just data unless you know what to do with it, unless you are able to turn it into insight, unless you're able to understand what is this data telling me if you know enough about your own industry, about what your consumer wants. So there's a 4-step framework that we usually look at when we're trying to make sense of data, and we call it IDEA, IDEA. So I stands for, first of all, the first thing you need to do is really identify what the problem is. And the second one is D, find the right data to help you analyze that problem. E, extract some unique and valuable insights. And A, turn that into action to solve your problem and deliver outcomes. So I'll give you an example, one that we worked on ourselves. It's for the telco industry because we know a lot about the telco industry. So the problem that most telcos have now is, it's not a high growth market. So they have to do everything to maximize their revenue, right? So let's dig a little bit deeper. So what prevents you from maximizing revenue? A lot of telcos struggle with customers who are going to churn out. Churning out meaning they're going to unsubscribe and move to a competitor. So that's the problem. How do we stop people from churning out? So the next step is D. Let's look at the data. So we had data on, people who churn out, but there's a lot of different points of data. So we thought to ourselves, perhaps people will tend to unsubscribe because they're price conscious, and maybe those would be young people because they're earning less, they're a bit more open to quick promotions. So let's map out the data of these churners and let's put in their age and their gender and basic demographics. So this next step is then, okay, let's extract some insights from this. So we looked at the data. Now, surprisingly, we found that the group that unsubscribed the most are not the young millennials, it's actually males, 35 to 49. So that's you. But why were males 35 to 49 dropping out the most? So that's where you need to actually understand. You need to put yourself in the shoes of the customer, right? So you need to understand what's going on in a Malaysian context for your customer. And so we thought about it, 35 to 49, that's the time when a man is likely to have kids. So he's got more responsibility. He might have older parents. So yeah, he may be earning more than a millennial, but he's got a lot more responsibility. So he's a lot more value conscious and likely to be looking for better value, right? So then the next step is, what's the action you're going to take? So we thought about, okay, if we're going to focus on men in this age group, let's do life cycle marketing. Let's really target them in the ways that can help them. So if he's a newlywed, you're going to give him, say, a couple promo. If he's got kids, you can run a promo that's, hey, family shares everything, including their data. If he's got older parents, run an ad for him that says, hey, you can take care of your parents. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. So, by the way, that's the question from Elvin. I hope you got the answer. All right. Since just add on Stephanie's, we have 4 more minutes, 5 more minutes to go. I was going to speed up a little bit. The next question came from Anonymous, right? This question actually is when it comes to paid ads, beside Facebook and Google, especially in Facebook and Google, what software do you use to help track and translate the advertising data beside the Google Analytics? So I guess maybe Christopher, you want to answer this question?
Yeah, I can answer this because we partner with a lot of clients who use a lot of different platforms, a lot of different panels to analyze and essentially, I guess, attribute paid ad channels and this kind of thing. One thing that keeps cropping up, I think, is a platform called Kenshu. I don't know if anyone knows Kenshu, but KENSHOO. So these guys, I mean, they come up a lot in conversations. A lot of our partners use these guys to optimize ad spend, analyze attributes, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the platforms that a lot of our partners have recommended. If you're looking at attribution on app, so if you've just got an app product and you're looking for attribution, a lot of our partners use AppsFlyer. So I mean, yeah, both companies as well are quite API friendly. So different people can form partnerships with these guys, plug in data, pull out data. So
how much does it cost? Very practical, right? Free one, no problem.
I mean, I don't know the exact costs because I'm not their sales guy. But I mean, I think it depends, right, on the scope of work. If you're going to use their full suite, it can get expensive. If it's basic,
is it cloud-based?
Yeah.
Okay. On application on paid by monthly or durations?
I would say monthly subscription.
Monthly subscription.
Yeah.
Okay. Check it out, guys. Right. Thank you. Okay. So next question we have here. Before I start, we have 3 more minutes, right, to start. Is there any live question that anyone want to ask? We have 3 more minutes, but anyone, any question here? Right? If not, going once. Okay, you guys are really, really shy. The new technology have changed the way we ask questions using technology.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, no worry, right? So the next question we have is that, 5G is coming, right? This is asked by Suhaili. How would 5G affect and change data-driven marketing? Would Kim Peng or would JiongHan know? Kim Peng, you want to? Okay.
So 5G in a nutshell just means faster, better experiences and the ability for different devices to talk to one another more effectively. So for example, like although I'm based in Malaysia, I actually do serve his country. Okay, so like for quite a number of banks over there, they are now actually connecting their digital signages. A digital signage, by the way, is the plasma that you always see in the mall. Okay, but this plasma, right? What you see is based on the devices that it could detect near the plasma. Okay, and you can actually. How many of you have bought ads through Facebook before? Some of you, right? Okay. So it's actually quite simple. So you literally say something like this. I want to target females who are in Changi, who are interested in Japanese food. And then based on the ones in proximity, right, they will attempt to calculate how many people are present and then immediately change what you see on the screen based on the density of the crowd. Okay? So this is actually quite similar to, I guess, what you will probably experience in Survey Pyramid. Okay? But as we continue more and more, this will become more and more prevalent. Like when we start speaking to, for example, people like a highway operator, in principle, as you're driving, right, the camera can snap you. And when snapping you, he can actually determine, for example, the condition of your car. Okay, so maybe I just paraphrase. How many of you passed your undang for your test, for your car? Most of us passed, right? Okay, so if you remember, there was one chapter dedicated, okay, where it says that it's a coin test. If the coin can go in, right, it means that your tires are still roadworthy, okay? if the coin is not able to stick in the thread, it means that your tires are likely going bald
I don't
soon.
recall I gone through that test. You know.
Okay, so anyway, assuming you do this, fundamentally, because our highway, right, is filled with cameras, and the camera can actually snap the car, snap the wheel, and even determine the depth of the thread. Okay, so based on this, he can actually determine when you are actually going to be at risk for accident. And if they combine this, for example, with weather conditions, right, they will say that you are now going to have a higher likelihood of experiencing or encountering a problem, and they can actually wayfind you to people who can actually assist. So all of these combinations, right, of data are now going to be made possible in the future, and it is up to marketers and businesses such as yourselves to take advantage of these trends so that you can give an edge for your team. So this, I would say, okay, he's killing me already, so.
I think the time is up, but I know we have one more question here, which is regarding data, but this particular question is a little bit wide. Maybe you would like to address it more specific, but to answer it in a very nutshell, depend on industries, the set of data you're looking at, right? And the best data, I would say that is your user-generated data, your own data. The industry data are somehow data provided by a lot of third party, depend on the industry you're in, so it's very difficult to answer this question in a way. But in the interest of time, I just want maybe one word of advice as key takeaway for all our audience, for each of our audience, our panelists here, to share. Just one word. If you use one word as advice, tough, huh? One sentence as advice for our audience here in regards to digital marketing, what would they do?
One word?
Yeah, try.
I would say, like as a key takeaway learning for these guys, I would say ownership.
Ownership, okay. Good.
Okay, I'm not sure if I've got one word, maybe a few words. Back to what I said earlier, data alone is not enough unless you have insight.
Good.
So try to apply insight.
Right, I think context, because that's what we do. We provide the context to the salesperson before the conversation even starts. Yeah.
Sure. So mine will definitely take more than a few words. From my personal observation, if you really want to use data properly, you must be willing to prove that by using it, you were able to demonstrate an uplift. Because if you don't bother doing this, it's always going to be your word against someone else's word. Yes.
Yeah, good point. In fact, all KPIs, one of the questions here about KPIs, I always say your KPIs should be matched to your business objectives, not marketing objectives.
Right.
Yeah.
With that, they've come to the end of our session. I'll say thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the last 33 minutes maybe. Thank you. I'm going to hand back to Lorraine. Thank you very much. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you, Sunny. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another round of applause for our fantastic panelists here. Thank you once again, Sunny, Christopher, Peng, JiongHan, and Stephanie. Thank you for joining us here today.